The sky above Valora Prime burned orange and red. Explosions lit up the darkness as another orbital defense station broke apart. Pieces of metal and fire fell toward the planet below like deadly rain. On the surface, millions of people looked up at the sky and wondered if they would survive the night. Ambassador Narration stood on the bridge of the Council flagship Harmony. She watched the battle through the main screen. Her hands shook. 3 months ago, the Crithian Dominion attacked without warning. 3 months of fighting. 3 months of losing. The Council sent 40 warships to defend Valora Prime. Now only 7 remained. The Crithians were unlike anything the Council had faced before. Their ships were alive. Giant creatures bred for war. They had thick armor made of regenerating chitin. Council energy weapons burned through the armor, but it grew back in minutes. The Crithian ships healed faster than the Council could hurt them. Nari watched another Council cruiser explode on the screen. The ship's name was Hope's Light. 500 crew members died in that flash. She closed her eyes. This was her fault. She recommended not asking the humans for help. The Council agreed. Everyone agreed. Humans were too violent, too dangerous. They fought wars on their own planet for thousands of years. The Council did not want warriors. They wanted peaceful members. Now the Council was dying. The Council fleet commander spoke through the communication system. His voice was tired, defeated. He said the shields around Valora Prime would fail in 6 hours. Maybe less. When the shields fell, the Crithians would attack the planet directly. 12 million people lived on Valora Prime. Most of them were civilians, families, children. Nari made her decision. She walked off the bridge. Her assistant followed her. He asked where she was going. She said she was going to Earth. He said the Council would never approve. She said she did not care. The Council's pride meant nothing if everyone died. 4 hours later, Nari's small diplomatic ship arrived at Earth's orbital station. The station was huge, much bigger than she expected. Weapons platforms surrounded it. Dozens of defense satellites tracked her ship as it approached. The humans gave her permission to dock. She walked through the station's halls. Human soldiers stood guard at every corner. They wore armor that looked heavy and practical. Not like the light ceremonial armor Council guards wore. These were real soldiers. She could see it in their eyes. Admiral Dae-Jung Kim waited for her in a conference room. He was older than she expected. Gray hair, deep lines around his eyes. But he stood straight, strong. He wore a simple military uniform with rows of medals on his chest. When she entered, he stood and offered his hand. She shook it. His grip was firm but not painful. Nari explained everything. The Crithian attack, the failed defenses, the millions of people who would die. She showed him tactical data on a holographic display. The Admiral studied the information carefully. He did not speak for a long time. Finally, she asked for help. She said the Council rejected humanity because they thought humans were too warlike, too dangerous. She said the Council was wrong. She said she was wrong. Now people would die because of that mistake. She asked if humanity would help anyway. Admiral Dae-Jung looked at her. His expression was calm. He asked how much time remained. She said less than 5 hours now. He nodded slowly. Then he pressed a button on the table. A woman appeared on the screen. She had short hair and wore a captain's uniform. Admiral Dae-Jung spoke to her. He said Captain Eugene Park should prepare the fleet for immediate deployment. Full battle readiness. Maximum combat load. The captain asked no questions. She simply said yes, sir, and the screen went dark. Nari felt confused. She asked if he needed to discuss this with Earth's government. The Admiral smiled slightly. He said Earth's government gave him full authority over military matters. They learned long ago that politicians should not command armies during war. He made the decisions. He took the responsibility. He stood and walked to the window. Outside, she could see ships moving. Huge warships. They looked different from Council vessels. Heavier, more weapons. The Admiral said humanity spent 300 years fighting each other. Nuclear wars. Conventional wars. Wars in space around Earth and Mars. Millions died. Humanity learned hard lessons from those wars. He said humanity learned that hoping for peace was not enough. You needed to be ready for war. You needed weapons that worked. Tactics that worked. Soldiers who trained every day. He said the Council thought humanity was violent. They were right. But violence had a purpose when it protected innocent people. Nari looked out the window. More ships appeared. She counted them. 10, 20, 30. The admiral said he was sending 50 warships. Nari felt her hope die. 50 ships. The council sent 40 and lost most of them. What could 50 human ships do? The admiral seemed to read her thoughts. He said council ships used energy weapons, lasers, particle beams. They were efficient, but not powerful enough to stop regenerating armor. Human ships used different weapons. Kinetic weapons, railguns that fired metal slugs at incredible speeds, missiles with nuclear warheads, mass drivers. Simple technology, but absolutely devastating. He said a tungsten rod moving at 5% of light speed carried more energy than any laser. It would punch through regenerating armor like it was paper. The armor could not heal if the entire ship was torn apart. Nari wanted to believe him. She wanted to hope. But she had seen the Crithians destroy so many ships. She asked if his fleet was enough. The admiral looked at her directly. He said the Crithians attacked Valora Prime with 300 ships. They would die with 300 ships. All of them, he spoke with complete certainty. Not arrogance, just fact. Like he was stating that water was wet or fire was hot. Nari felt a chill run down her back. She understood then. She understood why the council feared humanity. This man would kill 300 ships without hesitation, without mercy, because it was necessary. The admiral's communication device beeped. Captain Eugene's voice came through. She reported that all 50 ships were ready. Crews at battle stations, weapons loaded, course plotted to Valora Prime. Admiral Dae Jung acknowledged the report. He told her to begin hyperspace jump on his command. He looked at Nari one more time. He said she should return to her ship and go back to Valora Prime. Tell the council to move their remaining ships away from the combat zone. Human weapons were not precise. There would be debris, radiation, explosive force. The council ships needed to be far away. Nari nodded. She started to leave. Then she stopped. She asked why humanity was helping. The council rejected them, insulted them, called them primitive and violent. Why help people who showed such disrespect? Admiral Dae Jung was quiet for a moment. Then he said because 12 million innocent people needed help. Because letting people die to prove a point was not justice. It was cruelty. He said humanity made many mistakes in their history. They killed each other over stupid reasons, but they learned, they grew, they became better. Part of being better was helping others even when it was not deserved. Nari left the station with tears in her eyes. She returned to her ship and jumped to hyperspace. As her ship entered the blue tunnel of faster-than-light travel, she looked back. Through the observation window, she saw the human fleet preparing to jump, 50 massive warships. Their hulls were gray and covered with weapons. They looked brutal, ugly, purpose-built for destruction. They were the most beautiful sight she had ever seen. The human fleet vanished into hyperspace. Admiral Dae Jung stood on the bridge of his command ship. Around him, his officers worked at their stations. Everyone knew their job. They trained for this their entire careers. Not this exact situation, but something like it. Humanity always prepared for war, even during peace. The admiral thought about the ambassador's question. Why help? He did not tell her the complete truth. Yes, innocent people needed saving. That was reason enough. But there was another reason. Humanity was tired of being alone, tired of being feared. They wanted to show the galaxy that humans could be trusted, that their strength protected rather than threatened. This was humanity's chance. Save Valora Prime, prove their worth. Join the greater galactic community not as conquerors but as guardians. The hyperspace timer counted down. 3 hours to Valora Prime. 3 hours until battle. Admiral Dae Jung was not worried. He knew his ships. He knew his people. The Crithians would learn a hard lesson today. Humanity did not lose wars. They ended them. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Valora system. Captain Eugene Park stood on the bridge of the TDF Indomitable. She looked at the main tactical display. What she saw made her jaw tighten, debris everywhere. Thousands of pieces of destroyed ships floated in the darkness. Some pieces were small. Some were as big as buildings. She could identify council ship markings on several large sections. The Crithians had torn them apart. Closer to the planet, she saw the enemy. Hundreds of Crithian bioships. They looked like massive insects. Curved bodies covered in thick plating. Multiple legs that served as weapon mounts. They moved in swarms. Chaotic but effective, like locusts covering a field of crops. Commander Hyunwoo Choi worked at his tactical station. He reported the numbers. 312 Crithian vessels, sizes ranging from small corvettes to massive dreadnoughts. The largest was over 2 kilometers long. They surrounded Valora Prime completely. The planet's shields flickered, weak, failing. Behind the shields, 7 Council warships tried to hold position. They looked damaged. Burn marks covered their hulls. One ship was venting atmosphere. Captain Eugen recognized the tactical situation immediately. The Council ships were making a last stand. They would die protecting the evacuation shuttle still trying to launch from the planet. Lieutenant Taeyang Li spoke from the communications station. He said the Crithians detected the human fleet. They were transmitting something. He played the audio. The sound made everyone on the bridge stop working. It was not words. It was screeching, clicking, like millions of insects chirping at once. But there was intelligence behind it. Malice, hunger. Commander Hyunwoo ran the sound through the translation computer. The computer struggled but produced text. The Crithians were laughing. They said more prey arrived. More meat for the swarm. They said the humans would die like the others. Their ships would feed the queens. Their bodies would nourish the hive. Captain Eugen felt anger rise in her chest. She controlled it. Anger was useful if you directed it properly. She opened a channel to Admiral Dae-jung on his command ship. The Admiral's face appeared on her screen. He looked calm. He asked for her tactical assessment. She reported everything. 300 plus Crithian ships. Council forces nearly destroyed. Civilians still on the planet. The shields would fail in minutes. The Admiral nodded. He said the plan remained unchanged. Total elimination of enemy forces. No survivors, Lieutenant Taeyang interrupted. He said Ambassador Nari was broadcasting to them. He put her voice through the speakers. Nari sounded desperate. She said the human fleet should withdraw. There were too many Crithians. She said they were brave to come, but 50 ships could not win. She begged them to leave before they died too. The Council fleet commander also broadcast a warning. He said his name was Velthar. He commanded the defense force. He thanked the humans for coming, but he said they did not understand. Energy weapons did not work on Crithian armor. The bioships healed too fast. Kinetic weapons might be more effective, but 300 targets was too many. He said the humans should retreat. Live to fight another day. Admiral Dae-jung listened to both messages. Then he opened a fleet-wide channel. Every human ship received his transmission. He spoke clearly, calmly. He said they had traveled across the galaxy to save innocent lives. They would complete that mission. The enemy outnumbered them. That did not matter. Humanity had faced worse odds before. He said each captain knew their job. Each crew trained for this. Overlapping fields of fire. Coordinated strikes. Total coverage. The Crithians relied on numbers and regeneration. Humanity relied on precision and overwhelming firepower. He said there were 300 Crithian ships now. In 10 minutes there would be 0. Then the Admiral did something unexpected. He opened a channel to the Crithians. Commander Hyunwoo made sure the transmission reached them. The screeching sound stopped. The hive mind was listening. Admiral Dae-jung spoke to the enemy. He said this was their only warning. Leave this system immediately. Return to your space. Humanity would permit this retreat. But if the Crithians remained, if they continued attacking innocent people, they would be destroyed. All of them. He gave them 1 minute to respond. The minute passed slowly. Everyone on the Indomitable's bridge waited. Captain Eugen watched the tactical display. The Crithian swarm was reforming. They were turning away from Valora Prime, turning toward the human fleet. The screeching sounds returned, louder, angrier. The translation computer worked. The Crithians said humanity was arrogant, stupid. They destroyed the Council's ships easily. Humans were just prey. Weak, soft. The swarm would consume them. The hive queens would lay eggs in their dead ships. Captain Eugen saw the Crithian formation accelerate. They were charging. All 300 ships moving toward the human fleet at full speed. It looked terrifying, like a tidal wave of chitin and weapons rushing forward. She understood how the Council ships felt in those last moments before they died. But she was not afraid. She looked around her bridge. Her crew was ready, weapons charged, targeting systems locked. Every person at their station knew exactly what to do. They spent years training for this moment. Humanity did not do things halfway. When they prepared for war, they prepared completely. Admiral Dae-jung's voice came through the speakers one more time. He said 3 words. 3 simple words that every human warrior understood. Words that meant the time for talking ended. The time for action began, weapons free. Captain Yu-jin smiled. Not a happy smile. A predator's smile. She turned to Commander Hyunwoo. She told him to target the largest dreadnought. Center mass. Maximum power. Fire when ready. Commander Hyunwoo worked quickly. His fingers moved across the controls. The main railgun powered up. The Indomitable carried the most powerful kinetic weapon humanity ever built, a magnetic accelerator that fired tungsten rods at 5% of light speed. Each rod weighed 5 tons. At that velocity, it hit with more force than a nuclear weapon. The entire ship vibrated as the railgun charged. Energy levels climbed. 90%, 95, 100%. Target locked. Solution calculated. Commander Hyunwoo reported ready to fire. Captain Yu-jin gave the order. Fire. The railgun fired. There was no sound in space, but everyone on the bridge felt it through the hull. A deep thrumming vibration. On the tactical display, a small dot appeared, moving incredibly fast, crossing the distance to the Krithian dreadnought in seconds. The tungsten rod hit the bioship dead center. The kinetic energy was so great that the dreadnought simply came apart. The thick regenerating armor meant nothing. The rod punched through the entire ship from front to back. Everything along its path was vaporized. The rest of the ship shattered from the shock wave. Pieces flew in all directions, 1 shot, 1 kill. The largest Krithian ship destroyed in less than a second. The Krithian swarm hesitated. Their charge slowed. They were confused. How did the tiny human ship destroy their strongest vessel so easily? Their armor was supposed to stop everything. They were supposed to be invincible. They did not have time to understand. The rest of the human fleet opened fire. 49 other ships, each with multiple railguns, each with hundreds of missiles, each with laser point defense systems. The entire fleet fired simultaneously. The space between the human fleet and the Krithian swarm filled with projectiles, metal rods moving at impossible speeds, missiles with nuclear warheads, smaller explosive shells from automated defense guns. Commander Hyunwoo watched the tactical display. The computer tracked every shot, every hit. The numbers updated constantly. Krithian ships destroyed. 15, 25, 40. The count kept rising. The Krithians tried to fight back. They fired their weapons. Acidic projectiles launched from their biological cannons. But human ships moved, maneuvered, dodged. The few hits that landed splashed against thick armor plating. The acid burned, scarred the metal, but it did not penetrate. Human armor was designed to survive nuclear explosions. Acid was annoying but not deadly. Lieutenant Tae-yang reported incoming transmissions from the Krithians. More screeching. But different now. Not mocking. Not hungry. Panicked. Afraid. The translation computer showed their words. They were calling for retreat. Begging the queens to let them run. Asking how this was possible. Admiral Dae-jung heard the transmissions. He did not respond. He gave no mercy. No second chance. He warned them. They chose to fight. Now they would face the consequences. The human fleet continued firing. No hesitation, no pause. This was war. War did not stop because the enemy changed their mind. Captain Yu-jin checked her chronometer. 3 minutes since the first shot. The tactical display showed 173 Krithian ships destroyed. More than half their force. The rest were scattering, trying to run, but human targeting systems tracked them all. No escape. Behind the battle, the council ships watched, stunned, silent. Commander Velthar could not believe what he saw. The Krithians who destroyed his fleet were dying like insects, and the humans made it look easy, effortless, like this was just another training exercise. Ambassador Nari watched from her ship. She recorded everything. The council would never believe her words alone. They needed to see this, needed to understand what humanity could do when they went to war. 6 minutes, 218 Krithian ships destroyed. The TDF Resolute moved through the debris field. It was a destroyer-class ship, smaller than the Indomitable but faster and more maneuverable. Tactical Officer Sun Hee-han sat at her console, watching the remaining Krithian ships try to escape. She smiled. They were not fast enough. Sun He commanded the missile systems. The Resolute carried 400 missiles in its vertical launch tubes. Each missile had a nuclear warhead. 1 kiloton yield. Small by human standards but devastating in space. She selected targets. 20 Crithian corvettes fleeing toward the system's edge. She locked on all 20. She pressed the launch button. The ship shuddered as missiles shot from the tubes. One after another. 40 missiles for 20 targets. 2 per ship. Overkill was the human way. Better to use too much force than too little. The missiles accelerated, traveling at thousands of kilometers per second. The Crithians detected them, tried to shoot them down with their acidic defense weapons. They destroyed 8 missiles. 32 remained. More than enough. The first detonations lit up space like small suns. Nuclear explosions were different in the vacuum. No mushroom clouds, no shockwaves through air, just pure energy, light and radiation expanding outward. The Crithian bioships caught in the blasts simply disintegrated. Their regenerating armor meant nothing against nuclear fire. Sun He watched the tactical display update. 20 targets eliminated. She moved to the next group. Work to do. The battle was not over until every enemy was gone. Above the main battle zone, Fighter Wing Commander Jin Ho Kang led his squadron through the chaos. 30 small craft. Each pilot was the best humanity could train. Jin Ho flew his interceptor through a cloud of debris. Pieces of destroyed Crithian ships bounced off his shields. He ignored them. His targeting system identified a cluster of Crithian frigates. They were damaged, but still dangerous. Still had weapons. Jin Ho switched to smart mines. Each fighter carried 20. Small devices with simple programming. Find target. Attached to hull, explode, he deployed the mines. They shot forward on tiny thrusters. The frigates tried to evade, but they were too slow. Too damaged. The mines attached to their hulls. Multiple mines per ship, then detonated simultaneously. The shaped charges focused all their energy inward, boring through the regenerating armor, into the ship's cores, where the Crithian crew lived, where their biological systems operated. The frigates died from the inside out. Jin Ho's wings scattered, each pilot finding new targets, working together but independently. They trained for this since Academy, fighter tactics in 3 dimensions. No up or down, just targets and angles, kill zones and escape vectors. It was deadly ballet. Brutal but beautiful. On the command ship, Admiral Dae Jung watched the tactical overview. The battle was progressing perfectly. Human ships moved in coordinated patterns. Each ship knew where the others were, knew their firing solutions. No friendly fire, no wasted shots. Every weapon found a target. This was what humanity did best. Organized violence, controlled destruction. Other species fought with honor, with ritual. Humanity fought to win. Nothing else mattered. The enemy did not get points for bravery. Dead was dead regardless of how it happened. A communication came through from Commander Velthar. The Council Fleet Commander was watching the battle from his damaged cruiser. His voice shook. He asked how this was possible. The Crithians destroyed 40 Council ships over 3 months. The humans destroyed 300 Crithian ships in minutes. What weapons could do this? Admiral Dae Jung explained patiently. He said the Council used energy weapons. Lasers burned, particle beams damaged, but they required sustained fire. Time for the energy to transfer. Time for damage to accumulate. Crithian armor healed during that time. The weapons could not kill fast enough. Human weapons were different. Kinetic energy did not need time. A metal rod moving at relativistic speeds hit instantly. All the energy transferred in a fraction of a second. The armor could not heal, could not adapt. It just broke. Simple physics. Mass times velocity. Basic but absolutely effective. Nuclear weapons were the same. All the energy released at once. No time to regenerate. No defense except not being there. The Crithians evolved to fight energy weapons. They never faced weapons designed to destroy planets. Commander Velthar was quiet for a long moment. Then he said humanity was terrifying. The Admiral agreed. He said yes, humanity was terrifying. That was the point. Humanity learned long ago that the best way to win a war was to make the enemy too afraid to fight, show such overwhelming force that resistance seemed pointless. The tactical display showed fewer and fewer red marks, Crithian ships dying one by one. Some exploded. Some broke apart. Some just stopped moving when railgun rounds punched through their control centers. Different deaths, but same result. The swarm was dying. A transmission came through on the Krithian frequency. Admiral Daejung listened. It was the Hive Queens, the rulers of the Krithian Dominion. They spoke through the few surviving ships. Their voices were different now. Not mocking, not confident, desperate. They asked what species could do this, what creatures possessed such power. They said the Krithians conquered 40 star systems, defeated hundreds of civilizations, never lost a battle, never retreated. Now they were broken, destroyed. How? Admiral Daejung opened a channel. He spoke directly to the queens. He said they faced humanity, a species that fought wars for 3,000 years on one planet, that built weapons to destroy themselves completely, that learned strategy and tactics in blood and fire. The Krithians thought they were warriors. They were wrong. They were just bullies. Humanity showed them real warriors. He said this was their punishment for attacking innocent people, for killing civilians, for thinking might made right. The galaxy had rules. The Krithians broke them. Now they paid the price. The Hive Queens begged. They offered tribute, resources, territory, anything. Just let the survivors leave. Let them return home. They would never attack Council space again. They swore it. Admiral Daejung considered. He looked at his tactical display. 15 Krithian ships remained, damaged, fleeing, barely functional. He could destroy them all, complete the annihilation. But he was not a murderer. He was a soldier. There was a difference. He ordered ceasefire. The human fleet stopped shooting. The surviving Krithians were allowed to jump to hyperspace. 15 ships out of 312, 5% survival rate. The queens would remember this day. Remember the cost of attacking innocent worlds. Captain Yu Jin questioned the decision. She asked why let any escape. The admiral said because mercy was stronger than cruelty. Those 15 ships would return home. Tell the story. Spread fear throughout the Krithian Dominion. Every Hive Queen would hear how humanity destroyed their swarm. How their mightiest ships were torn apart like paper. Fear was a weapon too. Maybe the strongest weapon. Kill all the enemies and they became martyrs. Let some escape and they became warnings. The Krithians would never attack Council space again. Not because of treaties, because they were afraid. That was worth more than 15 dead ships. The last Krithian vessel vanished into hyperspace. The system was clear. Valora Prime was safe. Commander Hyunwoo began final damage reports. He said total human casualties were 0 deaths. 12 minor injuries from when one ship took an acid hit. The crew was burned but would recover. No ships lost. Minimal ammunition expended. Ready for another engagement if needed, Admiral Daejung thanked his crews. Every ship, every person. They performed perfectly, exactly as trained. He was proud to serve with them. The acknowledgement was brief, professional, but everyone heard the respect in his voice. Lieutenant Taiyang reported that the Council fleet was requesting permission to approach. Admiral Daejung granted it. The 7 surviving Council ships moved slowly toward the human formation. They looked tiny compared to human warships. Fragile. Their hulls were scorched and damaged. These ships saw hell and barely survived. Commander Velthar transmitted his thanks again. He said the Council owed humanity a debt that could never be repaid. 12 million lives saved. The Krithian threat eliminated. An entire civilization preserved. How could anyone thank the humans enough? Admiral Daejung said the thanks were appreciated but not necessary. Humanity did what was right. Nothing more. Nothing less. Good people were in danger. The humans helped them. That was how civilized species should behave. But he added one thing. He said the Council made a mistake. They judged humanity by their past, by their wars, by their violence. They did not see that humanity learned from those mistakes, grew from them, became better, strong enough to protect others, disciplined enough to use force only when necessary. He said maybe the Council should reconsider their opinion. Maybe humanity deserved a place among the galactic community, not as conquerors, not as threats, but as equals. As friends, Commander Velthar was quiet. Then he said he would recommend exactly that. After seeing what he saw today, after being saved by the species his people rejected, he understood. The Council was wrong. Humanity proved themselves, not through words, through actions. Captain Yu Jin watched Valora Prime on her screen. The sun was rising over the main continent. A new day. People down there would wake up and be alive because humanity fought for them. It felt good, better than any victory in simulations. This was real. This mattered. She looked at her crew. 2 days after the battle, the Indomitable's medical bay was busy. Medical officer Mi Young-shin moved between beds. Patients were everywhere. Not human patients. Refugees from Valora Prime. The wounded from the orbital stations. People who lived through the siege. Mi Young worked on a child, maybe 6 years old. Some species she did not recognize. Blue skin, 4 arms. The child was burned, caught in an explosion when a Crithian weapon hit their station. Mi Young used human medical gel. It worked on most carbon-based life forms. The burn started healing immediately. The child's parents stood nearby, watching with large eyes. The parents spoke in broken council common language. Thanked Mi Young over and over. Said they thought everyone would die. Then the humans came. Saved them all. Angels from the stars, Mi Young smiled. She was no angel. Just a doctor doing her job. But she understood the gratitude. These people lost everything. Their homes, their possessions, some lost family members. They deserved kindness. Deserved to see that not everyone in the galaxy was an enemy. On the bridge, Captain Yujin reviewed damage reports. The human fleet was in good shape. Minor repairs, reloading ammunition, routine maintenance. Nothing serious. By tomorrow, every ship would be at full combat readiness again. She looked at the tactical display. The debris field was massive. Hundreds of thousands of pieces. Salvage teams were already working. Recovering bodies, searching for survivors, documenting everything. The council wanted evidence of what happened. They would get it. A communication came through. Admiral Dae-jung. He said the council was convening an emergency session. They requested human presence. The admiral wanted Yujin to attend with him. Represent the military. Show the council who saved them. Yujin agreed. She prepared her dress uniform, cleaned, pressed, all her medals polished. She would represent humanity. Show them respect. But also strength. The council needed to understand both sides of humanity, the compassion and the power. Ambassador Nari waited in her quarters on the council station. She reviewed her speech, the words she would say to convince the council to accept humanity. But she worried. The council was old, traditional. Change came slowly. Would they overcome their prejudice? Would they see what she saw? She watched the recordings again. The battle footage. Human ships tearing through the Crithian swarm. Precision strikes. Perfect coordination. Overwhelming force. Every time she watched, she felt the same awe, the same disbelief. How did humanity become so powerful? She researched human history. Read about their wars. World War I, World War II, the nuclear exchanges, the Mars Rebellion. Conflict after conflict, each one teaching humanity new ways to kill, new weapons, new tactics. 3,000 years of warfare compressed into technological advancement. The Council evolved in relative peace. They developed energy weapons for efficiency, for exploration, for mining. When war came, they adapted those tools. But the tools were not designed for war. Humanity did the opposite. They built weapons first, then found peaceful uses later. That made all the difference. The council chamber was enormous. Hundreds of seats arranged in a circle. Each seat held a representative from different species, different worlds, all watching the center platform where Nari stood with Admiral Dae-jung and Captain Yujin. The council high speaker called the session to order. His name was Rathmore, an old species, one of the founding members. He looked at the humans with unreadable eyes. Then he began speaking. He said the council made mistakes, grave mistakes. They judged humanity without understanding them, rejected them based on fear and prejudice. Now humanity saved 12 million council citizens, eliminated the greatest threat the council faced in centuries. With 50 ships, in less than 10 minutes, he said the council was grateful, humbled, ashamed of their previous decision. He asked humanity to forgive them, to consider joining the galactic community despite how they were treated. Admiral Dae-jung stepped forward. He spoke clearly, calmly. He said humanity understood the council's hesitation. Humanity's history was violent. No denying that. But violence had a purpose when directed correctly, when used to protect rather than conquer. Humanity learned that lesson through suffering, through mistakes, through loss. He said humanity wanted to join the council, not to prove anything, not for revenge, but because the galaxy needed protection. The Crithians were not the only threat. Other dangers existed: pirates, warlords, aggressive species. The Council's peaceful philosophy was admirable, but peace only worked when everyone agreed to it. When someone refused, force became necessary. He said humanity could be that force, the shield that protected peaceful species, the sword that cut down those who threatened innocence. But humanity needed the Council too. Their knowledge, their culture, their wisdom. Together they could build something better than either could alone. The chamber was silent. Every representative listened. Then Commander Velthar stood. He was there as a witness, as someone who saw the battle firsthand. He spoke about watching his fleet die, about feeling hopeless, about accepting death. Then he spoke about watching the humans arrive. 50 ships against 300. He thought they would die too, but they did not die. They won, completely, decisively. He said he never saw such military precision, such deadly efficiency. The humans made war look like art, but more importantly, he said, the humans showed mercy. They could have killed every Crithian, hunted down the survivors. Instead, they let some escape, showed that their strength came with restraint. That was true power. Not just the ability to destroy, but the wisdom to know when destruction was enough. Other representatives spoke. Some were cautious, worried about human weapons, about what might happen if humanity turned aggressive. Others were supportive, grateful for the rescue, impressed by human capabilities. Finally, High Speaker Rathmore called for a vote. Accept humanity into the Council. Grant them full membership, all rights and responsibilities. The vote was not close. 317 in favor, 23 against, 12 abstentions. Humanity was welcomed, but Rathmore said there was more. The Council needed military reform. Their defenses were inadequate, proven by the Crethian attack. They needed a new military division, professional soldiers, modern weapons, effective tactics. He proposed creating the Council Defense Force, and he nominated Admiral Dae Jung as Supreme Commander. Another vote. This one was even more decisive. Only 8 representatives voted against. The rest approved. Admiral Dae Jung would command the defense of the entire Council. Human military doctrine would protect hundreds of worlds, billions of people. The Admiral accepted. He said he was honored, humbled. He would serve the Council as faithfully as he served Earth. He would train their soldiers, upgrade their weapons, teach them how to fight effectively. But he made one promise. The Council Defense Force would only be used for defense, never for conquest, never for aggression. Only to protect. The session ended. Representatives came forward, shook hands with the humans, some with all their hands, some with tentacles, some with whatever appendages they had, all expressing gratitude, relief, hope. Captain Yujin felt overwhelmed. She was just a ship captain. Now she stood in the council chamber, representing her entire species, being thanked by hundreds of different civilizations. It was surreal. Ambassador Nari found her, hugged her. The ambassador was crying. Happy tears. She said she was so afraid. Afraid the council would refuse. Afraid humanity would be alone forever. But now everything changed. Humanity had friends, allies, a place in the galaxy. Later that day, news reached them from Crithian space. The Hive Queen sent an official message. They requested a non-aggression pact with the Council, and specifically with humanity. They acknowledged their defeat, acknowledged human superiority in warfare. They would never attack Council territory again. Admiral Dae Jung read the message carefully. It was unprecedented. The Crithians never sued for peace before, never acknowledged defeat. They conquered or died trying. But humanity broke them, showed them a power they could not overcome. Fear worked. He approved the pact, with conditions. The Crithians would pay reparations to Valora Prime, would return any prisoners, would allow Council observers in their territory. If they broke the pact, humanity would return. And next time there would be no mercy, no survivors. The Crithians agreed to everything. They had no choice. They knew humanity could destroy them completely. Better to have peace, better to live. On the Indomitable, the crew celebrated. Not loudly, not with excess, but with satisfaction, pride. They did something important, something that mattered. They proved humanity deserved respect, earned their place among the stars. Commander Hyunwoo raised a glass in the officers' mess. He toasted to the crew, to the fleet, to humanity. Everyone joined. Even Captain Eugene smiled. Relaxed for the first time in days, Lieutenant Taeyang asked what came next. Where would they go? What would they do? Captain Eugene said they would go wherever needed. Protect whoever needed protection. That was their purpose now. Not just defending Earth. Defending everyone. It was a good purpose. A worthy purpose. Humanity spent so long fighting each other. Now they could fight for others. Use their strength for something greater. Something better. The future looked bright. Challenging, but bright. And humanity was ready. They were always ready. 3 weeks after the Battle of Valora Prime, the Council's main shipyard orbited a blue giant star. Hundreds of ships were docked there. Some for repairs, some for upgrades. And 12 ships were brand new. The first vessels of the Council Defense Force. Engineering Chief Sang-Woo Park walked through the construction bay. He looked at the new ships with pride. They were beautiful. Council design mixed with human weapons. Energy shields for defense, railguns for offense. The best of both worlds. Sang-Woo worked with Council engineers for 2 weeks, teaching them about kinetic weapons, about nuclear missiles, about human targeting systems. The Council engineers were smart. They learned quickly. But they were shocked by human weapons philosophy. Everything designed for maximum destruction. Nothing wasted on appearance or tradition. Pure function. One Council engineer asked why humans made such powerful weapons. Sang-Woo explained. He said when humans designed weapons, they assumed the enemy was just as advanced, just as determined, just as willing to win. So every weapon needed to be overwhelming, needed to end the fight quickly. Prolonged battles meant more casualties, more destruction. Better to hit hard and fast. The engineer understood. Said the Council. Always assumed they were more advanced than potential enemies. That confidence almost destroyed them. The Crithians showed them different. Now they learned from humanity. Learned to respect their enemies. Learned to prepare for the worst. On Earth, science advisor Haiwan Yoon stood in a laboratory. Around her, Council scientists examined human technology, particularly the hyperspace drives. Human drives were different from Council drives. Cruder but more reliable. They worked through brute force rather than elegant mathematics. In exchange, the Council shared their communication systems. Quantum, entanglement networks that allowed instant communication across any distance. No light-speed delay. Haewon was fascinated. This technology would revolutionize human military coordination. Would let Earth command fleets anywhere in the galaxy in real time. She also studied Council medical technology. They had treatments for diseases humanity never solved. Gene therapy, cellular regeneration, life extension. The Council scientists were generous. They shared everything. Said it was the least they could do after humanity saved Valora Prime. Haewon knew this exchange would change both civilizations. Humanity would gain centuries of scientific knowledge. The Council would gain military security. Both sides won. That was how good partnerships worked. Everyone benefited. Admiral Dae-jung sat in his new office. The Council built it for him on their central station. It was too large, too fancy. He preferred his old office on Earth. Simple, practical. But he understood the symbolism. He was Supreme Commander of Council Defense Forces now. He needed to look the part. His first task was reorganizing the Council military. They had ships, but no real structure. No chain of command. No unified strategy. Each species maintained their own forces, coordinated loosely during emergencies. That system failed against the Crithians. Admiral Dae-jung implemented human military organization. Clear hierarchy, defined roles, standard procedures, training programs, simulations. Everything humanity learned over thousands of years. Some Council members resisted, said it was too rigid, too militaristic. The Admiral was patient. He explained, showed examples. Eventually they understood. He also established rules of engagement. When to fight, when to negotiate, when to retreat. The Council previously had no such rules. Each commander decided independently. That led to inconsistency, confusion, unnecessary casualties. Standard procedures saved lives, made forces predictable to allies, unpredictable to enemies. Captain Yu Jin, now Rear Admiral Yu Jin after her promotion, commanded the 1st Joint Task Force. 5 human ships, 7 council ships, mixed crews, mixed technologies. Her mission was patrolling the border systems, making sure the Crithians honored their treaty. The patrols were quiet, boring even. But that was good. Boring meant peace, meant the Crithians were afraid, meant innocent people were safe. Yujin preferred boring patrols to exciting battles. Every day without fighting was a victory. Her crew adapted well to working with council species. At first, there were misunderstandings, cultural differences. But people learned. Humans learned that not everyone thought like them. Council species learned that humans were not mindless warmongers. They were people, with families, with hopes, with kindness. Commander Hyun Woo ran training exercises. Human ships against council ships, mock battles, no live weapons, just simulations. The council ships lost every exercise at first, but they learned, adapted, started using human tactics, coordinating better. By the 3rd week, they won occasionally. That was progress. He told Admiral Yu Jin that the council forces had potential. They just needed proper training, proper doctrine. Give them a year and they would be formidable. Give them 5 years and they would rival human forces. The Admiral agreed, said that was the goal. Make the council strong enough to defend themselves. Then humanity could return to Earth. Mission complete. But privately, Yujin wondered if humanity would ever fully return. The galaxy was vast, full of threats, full of species that needed protection. Humanity proved they were good at protection. Maybe that was their purpose, their contribution to the greater universe. On Valora Prime, life returned to normal. The orbital stations were rebuilt. The shields were reinforced with human technology. The cities recovered. Memorials were built for those who died during the siege, large monuments carved with names, places for families to mourn. But there was another monument, a statue in the capital city. 3 human soldiers standing together, looking toward the sky. The inscription read, "To humanity, who came when called, who fought when needed, who saved us all." The people of Valora Prime added flowers to the statue every day, a tradition that would continue for generations. Ambassador Nari visited the statue. She stood there for a long time, thinking about everything that changed, thinking about her prejudice, her fear of humanity, how wrong she was, how wrong the entire council was. She made a promise to herself to never judge species by their history alone. Everyone deserved a chance. Everyone could change. Everyone could grow. Humanity proved that. They were violent once. Maybe still were, but they used that violence to protect, to serve, to help. That made all the difference. She received a new assignment. Human Council Relations Coordinator. Her job was facilitating cooperation, solving problems, building bridges between species. It was perfect for her. She spent her life in diplomacy. Now she would use that experience to unite the galaxy. Medical Officer Mi Young-shin worked in a council hospital, teaching human medical techniques. The council had advanced technology, but humanity had practical experience. Battlefield medicine, triage, emergency procedures, things learned through wars. Council doctors were amazed by human resilience protocols. How human medicine focused on keeping people alive in terrible conditions, with limited resources, under extreme pressure. One doctor said council medicine assumed clean facilities, proper equipment, time to work. Human medicine assumed none of those things. Assumed you worked in hell and saved lives anyway. Ma Young said that was accurate. Human medicine developed on battlefields, in disasters, in situations where everything went wrong. You learned to adapt, to improvise, to never give up on patients. That philosophy saved lives. Fighter Commander Jin Ho Kang trained Council pilots, teaching them human maneuvers, human tactics. The Council pilots were skilled but conservative. They flew carefully, precisely. Jin Ho taught them aggression. Controlled aggression, but aggression nonetheless. He said in combat, hesitation killed you. You needed to act, commit, trust your training. The Council pilots struggled with this at first, but they learned, started flying like humans. Fast, aggressive, unpredictable. Their performance improved dramatically. One Council pilot asked Jin Ho why humans were so comfortable with risk. Jin Ho thought about it. He said because humans accepted mortality. Everyone died eventually. Fighting just meant choosing how you died. Running was one choice. Standing your ground was another. Humans preferred to stand. Preferred to face threats directly. Maybe that was foolish. But it was their way. Months passed. The new system stabilized. Council defense forces grew stronger. More organized, better equipped. Pirate attacks in Council space dropped to zero. No one wanted to face the upgraded fleet, especially not with human ships patrolling. The Crithians honored their treaty, paid reparations, released prisoners, allowed inspections. They learned their lesson. Humanity checked on them regularly, reminded them of the consequences if they broke the peace. The reminders were unnecessary. The Crithians remembered Valora Prime, would remember forever. Admiral Daejung stood on the observation deck of the Council station. He looked out at the stars. Hundreds of civilizations out there, thousands of worlds, all living in relative peace now, protected by the force he built, the force humanity made possible. He thought about Earth, about humanity's long journey, from tribal warfare to nuclear exchanges to interstellar cooperation. So much suffering, so many mistakes, but also growth, learning, becoming better. Humanity was not perfect, still had problems, still made mistakes, but they tried. They grew. They used their strength to protect rather than destroy. That was what mattered, not perfection,